Getting set for the 250 GP. Troy Doran was the best of the Aussies in the 125s. He finished in 22nd position, but what can Michael Byrne and Chad Reed do on home turf? This is how they'll line up. Mikhail Bujon, who's the man who's been just untouchable in the opening 2 rounds of the championship. The Frenchman on the Suzuki, the fastest qualifier. Pit Byra, second quickest. But there's a whole host in here. Daryl King, Daryl Beattie, that's someone we're going to keep an eye on in this one.
Yeah, for sure. You know, a lot of these New Zealand guys are treating this race as their home Grand Prix, so it's just as special to them as well.
Gordon Crockart, who is well up in the championship points, has struggled a little bit in the course of practice and qualifying. Shane Metcalf and Michael Byrne, who we mentioned there before, has made the long trip back from the United States, where he's been campaigning in Supercross, just to race in this one. 35 laps, +2, away we go. And the 250 Grand Prix in Australia. Pigeon got a great start. As we head into turn 1 for the first time, we jump aboard with Josh Coppins heading down the hill. There's Pigeon, he's made his way one further forward, but it looks like Pit Byra has taken the lead. Andrew McFarlane joins us in the commentary box for this one. Our great hope in the 500s, and what a start, Andrew.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting to see how the Australians are going this one. I think Chad Reed's sort of back in the middle of the pack, so it'll be interesting to see how they go on home turf and some soil that they're quite used to.
The Skittles Yamahas did so well in the 125 race, a second and a third position for that team, and at the moment, Pit Byra leads the way in the 250s. The track conditions seem to have changed again today. We've had a bit of an overnight downpour, not in terms of rain, but the officials here have put a lot of water down on the track to try and, I guess, improve it somewhat. You've ridden it in the course of the morning warm-up. What's it like?
Yeah, from Friday the track's changed quite dramatically, so it's going to be interesting to see how the track deteriorates over the 250 race, and interesting also for the 500.
They work up towards Skyline for the first time, and this is a replay of the start, Daryl.
Yeah, well, you see Josh Coppins earlier on getting a roll, but we can tell, oh, there's number 16 we've seen earlier, so he must have got in the middle of some dramas here, I'd say. There he is, yeah, there he goes down there, so...
Everyone taking a bit of evasive action now. This is the other off that we saw.
That's the Australian rider of Paul Broomfield gone down there and tangled up with the European, so it's unfortunate for Paul there.
Good to see that everyone is back up in action, though. Pit Byra leading the way aboard the Yamaha. Mikhail Pichon aboard the Suzuki Bike 2. The Corona entry is in second position. But so far in this championship, he has just been incredibly tough to beat.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I think with finishing second in the championship last year to Frederick Bolle, he's very, very determined to prove that he can be world champion also.
Well, already he's out after Pit Byra. They work towards this short single jump that leads them up the hill to complete the lap, almost at the start-finish line.
What about the racetrack here, Andrew? How do the Europeans find the hard service? Obviously, they're world-class riders and they adapt pretty well to different surfaces, but a lot different to what they're used to in Europe.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually quite interesting to hear Stefan and Marnik's opinion of the circuit, and they weren't all that keen on it, unfortunately, but I think with the circuit up and down the hills and getting quite bumpy, I think it will suit the Europeans.
Jay Foreman and the Aussie boys helping out Mikhail Bujon and the rest of the Suzuki squad here at Broadford this weekend. At the moment, the 25-year-old from Le Mans in France sits in second position. Our leader, Pit Byra, aboard the Yamaha. Here's some of the action further back in the field. Danny Tobias, one of the Millennium KTM motocross riders there, moves himself one further forward. Gee, KTM have got a strong pack of riders here this weekend.
They have. You ever wandered through the pits, they have a big transporter and a great setup, and it's a dirt bike that, you know, as far as production form goes on the Australian scene, it's hit the scene really strong, and it's come a long way, KTM, and a lot of the European brands are over the last few years.
Manufacturer that's based out of Austria with strong motocross and dirt racing heritage. Oh, we've got one of the riders down there now. I wonder who that is. Is that Byra that's gone down? It's difficult to tell from our commentary position. It looks like it is. So I wonder what has happened there, but he has lost a stack of positions, and that will put Mikhail Pichon into the lead of this 250 Grand Prix. Well, he's hurt too. He is hurt.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate for Pitt actually, because in the first Grand Prix he was very, very strong. He come from a long way back, and you know, I think this year he was very confident, but a crash like that, it's not good.
Well, I wonder if it was maybe just a problem with one of the levers, the clutch or the brake lever, and he seems to have moved that back out of the way, Daryl.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It looks like he got everything adjusted. Injury-wise, he seemed fine that he was going to carry on, but this guy here, 2 wins from 2, and now in the lead again, is just going to be building in confidence.
The gap now out to 3.5 seconds, as you can tell. And so here's Danny from Belgium. A bit further back, there's Claudio Federici in second.
I guess one of the other interesting thing, Andrew, a lot of people want to know is how much, apart from physical training, how much riding do these guys do, say, each week for a Grand Prix or with time off? What about training?
It's actually quite different this year with a weekend off in between each Grand Prix. I think they're doing quite a lot of riding. I know with myself, it's I've got a fairly good schedule worked out now, and doing enough of training and riding. So I think you can do too little and you can do too much sometimes. So it's just a matter of how the body is feeling.
On board with Josh Coppins, and that gives you an idea of just how violent a lap of the 1.8 kilometre Broadford circuit can be when you're on a motocross bike. How taxing is it on your body?
Especially coming from Europe, where it's been quite cold, like less than 10 degrees, and coming here to Australia, the circuit's very dry, very hard packed, and also the temperature up around the 20 degrees. So for a lot of the European riders, and it's going to be difficult. It's going to be interesting to see how they're going to go in the heat.
Definitely easier for us, Rusty, in the commentary box.
Mikhail Bijon leads this one. This is round 3 of the 14-round World Championship. And in the 250s, from the 2 starts so far, Mikhail Bijon has recorded 2 wins. The gap is now out to 6.9 seconds to Claudio Federici aboard the Yamaha. He's taking it fairly, just tentatively. I guess he's considering that points are what's important here. Even though that gap is increasing and it's early stages in this race, if he can hang on to second, that's valuable championship points.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's a long championship, and it's important to get points at every single round. And like we've seen in the first round in Spain, we had 3 leaders, and 3 leaders crashed, which was unfortunate, but important to stay very consistent and strong throughout the whole moto.
Yves de Maria there, who you can see aboard the Yamaha. Another Frenchman in 3rd position, this one being led by the 25-year-old Mikhail Bijon. An Italian splits them. Federici, one of them down there. Boy.
Big fall.
Not quite sure. That might be Carl Nunn that's gone down.
Still quite wet on the inside of that turn, so you wonder if he slipped over as it's landed. I don't know what he's done there, but big fall.
Let's take another look.
Maybe get Andrew to give us a comment on it.
Yeah, just after that step-up jump there's quite a few acceleration bumps on the other side, so possibly he's caught the top and the front wheels dove straight into the power bumps. Possibly he's got a little bit crossed up right there.
Well, the Motorex Husqvarna rejoins the field. Carl Nunn has lost a stack of positions as a result. Mikhail Bijon leads the way from Claudio Federici aboard the Yamaha. Frederic Bollet, the reigning world champion, 9th. Josh Coppins carrying our onboard camera just ahead of him in 8th position. This is the World Motocross Championships on your home of motorsport. Back with more in just a few moments. You're watching all the action from round 3 of the World Motocross Championships on your home of motorsport. This man, Mikhail Bijon, leads the way in the 250 Grand Prix. Has a sizable lead. There you go, 8.7 seconds he has increased it to over Claudio Federici, the Yamaha rider. Circuit tending to dry out in places, but it's still wet in others.
Yeah, it's quite difficult to ride and to choose tyres when the track changes from dry to wet soil. So interesting to see how it's going to run up and change over the 35-minute race.
Yves de Maria sitting in third position now. We've just heard word from the mechanics area here at the circuit that Australia's Chad Reed, who clawed his way up into a top 10 position off the start, has had a fall, and he's not badly injured at all. He's actually charging his way back up the leaderboard, is currently in 12th position, so the Aussie, much to the crowd's delight here at Broadford, is on an absolute charge. We will keep you up to speed with his progress. Paul Cooper aboard the Yamaha has had a moment. He too is all right.
What about someone like Michael Byrne, Andrew, that's coming from the AMA series in the US and Supercross? How much adjustment has he got to make after riding that all year to an outdoor event?
I think for Michael, just solely concentrating on Supercross and not having any training or not much testing on motocross, I think he's going to find it quite hard, especially with the speed of the 250 riders and already having 2 rounds under our belt already.
Frederic Volley, he wears the #1 plate for a very good reason, the reigning world champion. Pigeon is keen to take it away from him in 2001. Now, this man is not too far in front of Australia's own Chad Reed. We caught a shot of him there in the background aboard the Kawasaki. So Reed has now made his way up into 10th position. And the crowd here at Broadford are getting right behind him as well. So this is an incredible fight back. The 19-year-old who hails from Newcastle was signed by Jan de Groot at the end of the 2000 season for a full assault on the 250 championship.
Bolle definitely looking like he's not really on it at a lot of these turns, and these guys, especially Chad Reed, just about to swamp him here.
Reed is really well positioned here. Bolle is struggling. Paul Cooper, who's on the recovery road, we saw him go down before. Oh, the back end snaps out badly on Cooper's bike, and look at that, Reed picks up 2 positions. Listen to the crowd here at Broadford.
You see Bolle there, happy to give away that next position as well. Definitely got into it.
Reed spent around 2 weeks in Japan in November testing this Kawasaki with his teammate. Really learned a lot, he said. He said the build on the Jan de Groot engine of the Kawasaki was a really strong one. He made very minimal changes to this bike. Feels very comfortable on it and using it to good effect here at the moment. Oh, this is a real shame for Bolle.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because very, very strong in all the previous races to the GP, but possibly a problem with the bike or the fitness.
Massimo Bartolini goes past him as well, so he is dropping a whole host of positions.
I think fitness might see how he swung his left arm off there, and maybe arm pump or something like that. You're definitely right there. Maybe a problem with his arms.
Listen to the crowd roar there for Chad Reed. This has been a brilliant fight back from him. And the fall seemed to have only fired the youngster up, the 19-year-old, really on a charge. Last season he was Yamaha mounted here in Australia in the National Motocross and Supercross Masters Championships, but this season the switch to Kawasaki and a full assault on the World Motocross Championship. He's no stranger to living and competing overseas. From age 11 he used to regularly commute to Indonesia to compete. Now based in Belgium with this team, and this is a very strong showing. This must be pumping you up for your effort in the 500 shortly.
Yeah, possibly. Chad's riding very well this year. He's been very, very strong, and good to see when he does have a crash or gets a bad start, he does not give up, and very important to keep on charging because in such long races and such difficult circuits, anything can happen to the bike or possibly any rider.
Colin Dugmore, another one of the Millennium Motocross KTM riders. He had a bit of bother there. Not quite sure what's wrong with the bike as he makes his way up towards the skyline area.
God,
but what about this?
Really, really good, isn't he?
He just looks like he's in such a commanding position.